Hey guys, welcome back to Gloom Talk Part 2. So we have the rest of the topics. We're going to have a couple of different ones for Part 2. So this is going to be quality of bosses, gear and experience, RNG elements, open world design. So to start it off, let's go with Bing. Why don't you start this one off, buddy?
Okay, so let's go with quality of bosses then. And I've got to say, for now, like I'm not that deep in the game. I would say maybe like halfway through the story as of now, and I'm surprised by the quality of them. Like they're so different for one another, and like the mechanics are actually fun to mess around and pretty challenging in some cases. I'm still surprised that some progression bosses are sometimes so hard to deal with. Like I'm kind of scared for end game or raiding bosses. That's gonna be a pain to deal with. But yeah, no, they are super fun, and honestly, just farming them is a blast. So couldn't love them more, I think.
Okay, lovely. And let's go with Xuki on this one.
Yeah, they're really well thought out, I think. Each one's different. There's ones where you've got bits that split off that you need to kill to drop the health. Some that have got different phases as you drop it as you drop the health. They're really well thought out.
Lovely. And Subby, like, what are you thinking of the quality of bosses so far in the game?
So I just finished the story mode for the game, so I probably know all of the bosses now. So my personal opinion about it is just, yeah, they're really great. They are well designed for like an early access development, and it's more really like engaging, and the mechanics are really complex but fun to understand once you get the hang of it, and cool artwork and all sorts that went behind it. Probably one of the best ones I've seen in a long time in a MMO, to be honest. And yeah, I can't wait for the raids bosses.
Nice. So my experience at this point in time of recording is I haven't actually played the game too much because of where we're doing the Let's Play series on top of the server issues that went on, and then of course I'm doing all the back work in the guild, so not a lot of game time at the moment, but I am gonna be getting some very shortly. The bosses I've done so far have been, I thought they're pretty enjoyable, really up to par. Um, I would like there to be harder modes past 4, even with the imbuements. I feel like the imbuements can be great, but I feel like they can go a couple of steps harder to really
Yeah, they
get.
said they can. They will add like some sort of like difficulty. I mean, with the Saphirs as well, they have that as well to make the bosses more harder. But like you said, they could like step up a notch because when they do include systems like Ascension and all of that stuff, people are gonna go power hungry with their like power fantasies and all that. So I feel like adding hard modes for the bosses will be more beneficial, so people don't get bored of killing the boss in like what one shot.
Okay, the next question I do have is kind of off the bosses. It kind of goes into, I guess, part of the RNG elements upcoming topic. How are you like finding like loot tables and stuff, like the items that you're getting? Do you feel they're good enough, or do you wish there was more? Like, is the gold that you're getting from doing it
Well,
okay? Or
I wish
I'll
they
go ahead.
were a little bit more clearer on what you can get from each boss. I don't think there's a loot table per se.
Yeah, at the moment, there is a unofficial wiki about it, where which boss will farm certain parts for weapons or um Wayfinder, but then again it's unofficial and you have to go to a website to do it, which is kind of a pain in the ass. I can't lie. But yeah.
I mean, I feel as though I've killed quite a few of the early game bosses now, having 2 Wayfinders over level 20. and I don't see where I've dropped anything like Wayfinder-ish, like the tokens to pull to get them, or anything for the weapons or anything. I don't think I've pulled anything. So unless they're in the later game stuff, then
I think, going off the top of my head, yeah, I think it's all scattered about the place, even in some of the earlier stuff.
Yeah, you need to go multiple places to, let's say you want a specific weapon. There's like multiple dungeon and bosses to farm for. The thing is, like mentioned, there is no drop table. There is an option at the arsenal, which is the place where you craft your weapons, to see what part of each weapon drops where, which is pretty handy. But if you go like for an individual boss, you can't know what each drops specifically, which is a bit of a pain, but can somewhat be worked around.
and my next thing would be: does increasing the difficulty increase the drop chance?
No, it doesn't. No, it does not. It increases the more whatever resource you get. It just increases a bit. It doesn't increase by much. I would say maybe like 7% it will increase on your resources. Other than that, it doesn't increase your chances of any of the parts or anything.
Yep. At least from what we know, because we don't have official like percentage or whatever. But one thing I want to mention also for the difficulties, since we touch on that quickly, yes, the imbuements do add a lot of difficulty for certain fights. I do wish that there would be maybe more able than 4, as you mentioned, but maybe that would be added sometime later. Just one thing I would like to add to that, if maybe somehow a dev is watching this or whatever, if we use an imbuement that puts AoE undergrounds, like the firebomb one, or I'm not sure if there's any other one that does this, please make somehow a way that if you die to the boss, that these AoE like go away and like the arena resets, because right now they stay there. So if you die to the boss like 5 times, every single pool of fire that's been added to the arena will stay there all the time, which at some point just make it pretty much unplayable.
I actually have a clip on that where I was in a dungeon, and I know that certain status effects they do stack up to a certain extent. But there was a clip, that was a gameplay I was going through a dungeon where it was pure poison, like obviously the poison imbuement, I forgot what it's called. But I was one in the poison, and I was doing a boss as well. But for some reason I died, but I still had the poison effect on me, and it just kept going and kept going. I don't know if it was stacking or if it's just a minor bug. Either way, it was just really frustrating because it's just like, oh well, whenever you die in a boss fight, it's you can't spawn until everyone else dies or completes the boss fight, So it's like it kind of gets on your last nerve.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can only speak for the poison one that I done earlier with Vecna. They took me. I was really under-leveled, under-geared, but the poison effect. I never had it stack on me the way you described, so I'm assuming that might be a bug. But
you didn't last long enough, Tom. You didn't last long enough with it. Like one tick were killing you, mate.
Yeah, that poison effect does one shot though. Like it
Yeah, it's
I'll
a
give
really
them that.
strong
They made it so
yeah.
you can't cheese it on the lower level. Like they made it difficult.
Yeah, the poison effect is probably one of the most strongest out of all of the status effects in the game. Because even if you have like good gear, you have a high power level, somehow you will always die, not to the enemies, but to the poison status effects, which really is kind of funny. But hey, it is what it is.
The one topic I did actually want to bring up is something we missed out on the last one as well. A quick brief overview of thoughts of the game in its current state. I know we'd lightly really touch some of that in the last, but if we could just get a summary quickly as well, just to close that chapter off. We'll start with Bing for this one. Like, give me thoughts of the game. Give it a grade out of 10 as well. Where would you rate that?
So right now, ignoring obviously like server issues and whatnot, I think the game would be an 8 out of 10 for me. Like the gameplay loop itself, I think is pretty much perfect. Like it's just good flow so well for going to dungeon runs and grinding stuff. It's just so fun right now. There's just a bit of polishing to do on stuff like we mentioned, like loot tables and maybe better clarity that we said in part one to just make the games, like I said, feel more polished and more like really great to play. But right now, like it's absolutely an enjoyable experience, and I've been pretty much itching to just play every time I get off work. So yeah, I'm loving it so far.
Okay, Xuki, what about you?
Really enjoying it. Yeah, I agree with Bing. It's about an 8.5 out of 10. A couple of finishing touches on it, and they'll definitely get a 10 out of 10 game. Loot tables, for example, would be a big thing. Clearing up some of the locations of where stuff is. Better guides slightly, or like on the echoes and stuff would really push that score further for me.
Yeah. Okay. Subby, what about you?
Well, I will give it. For me, it would be the same at 8, but for specification's sake, I would give it like a 7.8 because, like Bing and Zuki said, like the gameplay, it's really nice, and I've been itching to obviously like play it as much as I can, and obviously not burn myself in a process. But yeah, I've been itching to really play it a lot. But if obviously the only things they need to do is just finishing polishing up and maybe fixed out loading times as well. So when you're in the loading screen, you spawn into skylight more faster when you complete a dungeon or stuff like that. It's that's all they really need to do in my opinion. And I would give it like a solid 9.6, 9.7 of gameplay, everything. Yeah.
Cool. This one's actually really difficult for me because of the problems I brought up in the last podcast. But if I have to go solely off my experience alone and ignoring the server issues, and disconnects and stuff, I'm actually going to give this game a 9.5. I'm going there. I'm being that guy. This is the game I have waited for quite a while to come out. I wanted something along the lines of Warframe, but with a touch more MMO into it, kind of like that split between Guild Wars and this is as close as I think a game will get without really going heavily on theming into a different kind of game like this. I think this is as close as it really does get to what I want. So far I've got a lot of old guildies enjoying it. Like they've been in Retribution for years now. And then we got a couple of the newer lot, and then DNA lot. Like outside of gameplay, I've not heard like many bad things. All the negativity so far has been off the servers and off disconnects and the rewards. Gameplay wise, it's exactly what I'm after. Though I want to sink hours in. I want all these little mini subsystems to learn about. Then it's not too casual friendly. Some of them.
If I can just add on to the housing system, I was talking about this to another guild member that if you're just like grinding a lot for like that specific weapon or part, I feel like that the housing system and all of that gardening system that they will introduce later on, that's like a good way to just like cut off from all of that grind that you could actually relax, maybe just chill and talk with the guild. And it's a nice thing to add to like a really grindy kind of, I mean, it's a looter shoot at the end of the day, but it's nice to have that place where you can just like sit down with your four fellow guild members or party members and just like shut off and just like enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to see this time next year how we all think the game is doing. Hopefully it's expanded a lot. Hopefully it remains at the same quality and the content's pumped out for it as well. But yeah, that's our ratings for that. So just to nip that topic up there, because I know we I know we lightly went over the stuff, but we never really went into the scores and stuff. So that's thoughts of the game covered. Let's go into gear and experience, okay? Xuki, do you want to start the gear and experience off? Because I know this
Yeah,
all ties into the other part, right? But
the gearing experience for me, especially with the echoes and the accessories, like I said, I had to get a guildie to sit and go over it all with me because it either I missed it in the tutorial or it wasn't explained in the tutorial that well. So I was struggling and I wasn't sure. I could see everybody talking about these echoes and accessories, and I'm like, what have I missed? But now I've had it explained to me and I can see what I'm doing, it's a lot easier. But that first little bit where I didn't know and I couldn't find out were really frustrating.
yeah. Like, do you feel like what could they do better to do that as well for you? Like, I know you've likely said like they could make it a little clearer, but just to be really specific here to people, like pretend. I don't want you to pretend like the devs are watching the stuff. Be really clear. How, if you could change anything, what would it you be exactly changing?
Later a tutorial.
Do you just really want a more in depth?
More
full
in depth,
coverage?
more clearer tutorial. Pick an accessory up or a low level echo or something that, and then the game actually shows you and goes through with you how to equip it and what each little symbol means and stuff.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. What about you, Bing? Since you spoke up, what's your thoughts on the gearing experience of the game?
True. So right now, I think the gearing is like pretty good. I won't say it's the best I've ever seen, but it's pretty serviceable. You know, it does its job. I just like think the echoes are a bit confusing as of now. Like just well, not confusing because you kind of know how they work, but just like how to make a right build right now is pretty much in the air because no one's really know like how stats really weight in what in fights and like what should you prioritize and whatever. So you can kind of just slap anything you've got that works and hope for the best for now. So maybe that will come with time, but a bit more clarity for that would be nice. I also really hope for Echoes that they don't take the Warframe route, where like in Warframe nowadays mods pretty much come with like their own set of powers and stuff that like drastically change the game. And I feel it would be a bit too much for us if stuff like that happened to Wayfinder. I do hope Echoes really stay just stats and nothing else other than like the bosses Echo that have their own power, which I think are pretty fine. For the gear itself, one thing I'm wondering about is like for the trinkets that we're equipping. Not sure if the slots and the power of them are always randomized, or if a trinket of a certain type is always the same no matter what. Like, let's say one of them is like, I don't know, like a little ring or whatever. I can't think of a name right now, but like do every version of that string that you drop, no matter what, as the same slot, or is it just completely randomized? For now, I don't think we really know, and I do hope that we get to know that in the future, because if it's all randomized and having like a good build setup, it's gonna be really, really hard because you pretty much need to pray get like the perfect trinket you need.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much stuff like that. For now, I think it works pretty well for the at least for what we have, but you know, more like set in stone stats and slots and stuff like that so we can make proper builds would be appreciated, I think. And also please fix the bug that makes that we can't sell any trinket for whatever reason. I have so many piling up in my inventory.
I have so many that I can sell for gold. It's just, I can't sell any of them. It's just ridiculous at this point.
Oh yeah, I'm sitting on like thousands of gold that I can't even give. It's crazy, but I mean, it's a bit funny in a way, so I don't really mind. But
Okay. Subby, what about you, buddy? What's your thoughts on the gearing experience of this game?
Well, what really caught my eye was the power system. When you obviously, with each gear, you have like the power of what it will give you if you're fully upgraded, stuff like that. I really like that system. I know many people would like agree, like, they're a bit iffy about it. But for me, it kind of reminds me of my days back when I used to play like games like Destiny 1 and stuff like that, right? It just gives me that adrenaline was, but like, hey, look, I want to try and max out the maximum cap of the power, you know, like see if I can push it, see what the cap is, be like the first person to like reach maximum caps, stuff like that. So I feel like that really personally is like more nostalgic and more fun for me. But with like being said, with the artifacts and the trinkets and stuff like that, some you can't even sell. I have like loads of nice ones that sell for 400 gold to 1,000 gold and stuff like that. And considering how gold is hard to get into, the like in a game, gold is really hard to farm at the moment. It would be more beneficial if you could actually get that kind of system working, because you can just it clears inventory space first of all, and you gain your gold. So that's just how I think it is. But other than that, I'm really in love with the power system and everything that they have going. Considering with like the amount of different rarities and different gear types and stuff like that. So yeah, I really do love it.
I'm actually glad you brought up the power system because I've played a few other games which have had a power system in, and normally the power system lies a bit, because it doesn't take into account like things like set bonuses and those other games, and that they can be. Let's say I've got two pieces of gear, right? One's let's go with the level 7, level 9 experience we used in a previous example in the other podcast. You may find that the level 9 defensive gear would give me a better power level, right? But the level 7 gear gives me the actual stats I want to put into the character, which is actually better for the character. And that's where the power level for me kind of differs, because I can imagine, especially when the game goes free to play, going to be people chasing the power level number. They're not really going to be focusing on what type of stats they're going to be putting into the character. Like, they have a bulk, don't get me wrong. I can't imagine people are that stupid, but I feel like some people will slap some extra stuff in there that shouldn't be in there, and then try and justify it with their playstyle because they're chasing the power. Does that make sense?
It's Guild Wars 2 all over again. Playing with one stat because it increases the healing.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the Guild Wars 2 scenario where you have multiple stats of healing gear, and one does more heals, but one's actually more effective at other things, and like boom duration and stuff like that. So, it's kind of like in that game, like, why do you need to fully invest in healing power when you can get some more concentration, or if you're tanking, for example, go into a bit more toughness.
Speaking of which, I actually would like if abilities like showed what they're scaling of. Because right now, I need to do a bit of testing, but I don't even know if Windgrave's healing is scaling of ability power, or if it's just like a raw stats that's like decided by itself.
Actually, Bing, I can answer that for you because that's what I've been wondering myself. So with the healing, it does variety on. So with the ability power, it doesn't really affect it as much. You could have, let's say your ability power could be 3,000, right? It will not have a massive boost onto it. I think the main one is just your artifacts and the trinkets that you have, especially. Because I tried, I have like around almost 4,000 power on my Wingrave, and it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, what matters is that you synergize your abilities well, right? So yeah, it helps, but not to a point where it's a game changing kind of mechanic. Yeah,
Well, That's pretty much
Oh.
proving my point. Like, if there was a way to know what abilities get of what, that could help with that. Because right now I'm just being slapping on ability power, hoping that it would make my healing better. But
I
Yeah,
would
some
actually
are-
like to know if there's diminishing returns on this stuff as well.
that too.
Yeah. So just like in the tooltip of the ability, it scales off weapon power, scales off ability power, or whatever. So you know that to increase the healing, you need to stack, say, weapon power, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Because like right now, well, thank you, Subby, for the info. Actually, because now I'm just gonna take off all my ability power and distribute it to other stats. Now that I know it doesn't do anything for my healing. So yeah,
I
that's
mean,
just,
yeah, with the ability power, right? It, like I said, don't focus too much on it, but it's nice to have some like balance it. But like with my build for Winggrave anyway, my build is more hybrid. Like it's like damage, tanking, and healing all at the same time. Like it does all of those three qualities well, and that's what I feel like Winggrave is. Like, yeah, sure, he's a tanky boy, right? But not many people understand how, like I said many times, like how his abilities synergize so well. Like I try to stress this to many people who start to play Winggrave or I'm like their abilities this work so well. His kit is amazing, and with the ability power, that's yeah, it can be more, but it won't. Like I said, it won't change the fact. Like what I would personally focus my more time to is the obviously with the upgrading your skills is one thing, and also with your break power. Break power, some people don't like it due to reasons that I won't state, but break power is really good for Ringgrave if you want to make a build about that. But yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I've seen a lot of people running a load of break power for Wingrave. It's like, I believe it was on Reddit, someone had posted 2 different builds, like, invest break power, X, Y, Z, and I can't remember what the other stat they said to invest into for the other.
break power, if you can have some, is pretty good because once the let's say the boss is broken for a couple seconds, it's pretty much just 3 DPS. He can't do anything. So
Exactly.
he's
There's
just
so
gonna get
much.
stunned.
Yeah, so many DPS. Like if you have 2 DPS dealers, they can take down like at least easily 50k health off the boss easily if when the guard breaks. So if you're playing Ringgrave, I mean, personally, break is the main thing to focus on, and then other abilities is depending on how you want to play Ringgrave. But break, I feel like break power is like the must you have.
Yep, good to know. I'll take that into my build.
Okay, I think we've kind of all summed that one up then, and hopefully learned something along the way. So let's get into RNG elements. I haven't got too much experience on this again, from where I've not really played too much for various reasons. But I know like you 3 have way more time than me, right? So if you've been farming for a weapon or a specific gear part or
I haven't been farming
fine.
for a weapon or a specific gear part, but I've been farming for materials, and I believe it's the pit or at least the mines section. There's a chance for a my brain's gone.
Do you want us to come back to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go with Subby then. Subby, if you want to start with the RNG elements, like again, weapons, wayfinders, stuff like that.
With the RNG elements, so personally, obviously, at the moment, I haven't been doing wayfinders at the moment, but weapon wise, I can say that for me, it's not too bad. Like it's compared to games like let's say Warframe and stuff. It's more I would say bearable. But I found out that even doing any kind of boss that gives you parts for like weapons or wayfinders is that I even without trying I still get parts on a common, like it's pretty common. even if you're not trying to get that pod. Because I obviously, with the system of Ascension coming out, you do need a lot of pods, even though you already have that Wayfinder in order to ascend them. So even if you already have the specific character of that part's still worth grinding up for future end game kind of builds and stuff like that. But RNG, for me, it's been alright. It's not been bad compared to other games.
Okay, not bad. Bing, do you want to add?
Yeah, for me, I think right now, like the RNG feels good. I mean, we mentioned it a bit, but just like more knowledge on what are us, like a drop table or loot, like a place where you can drop specific stuff. Just more knowledge on where we can get what would be nice, and especially I don't know why for Wayfinders you can't like check where their parts drop for weapons. You can like check every material for a specific weapon and their parts where they drop, but you can't do the same for Wayfinders. It doesn't have the menu for that, so I wish they would add that. But other than that, I think the RNG feels fair. I'm not like really grinding echoes right now, but I feel it might be a pain a bit later to try to get like every echo in epic quality and then upgrade them and stuff. But that might be a grind for much later. So I can't say much about that yet for now.
Nice. And then like, Xuki, you ready to pick that up with your views?
So in the mine, there's a certain event that only appears on a certain tile layout. So it's completely RNG if you're going to get that tile layout, and then there's a 50% chance then that event is going to be on that tile layout. So to farm a certain material that I know you need, I think they were saying for Kairos, or I think it is, or it might be one of the other ones, you need quite a few of these bones, but you can only get them from a event with a mining drill. So you've got to hope that you get the map tile layout with the mining drill on, and then you've got to hope and pray that the mining drill feels nice and drops the item that you need. So it's like 50% chance to get the map, the layout, and then 50% chance that the mining drill is going to be there, and then a 50% chance that the mining drill is actually going to give you the loot that you need. That's a lot of runs.
Yeah. Yes.
And you need like 50 odd, I think they were saying, to get this piece for this finder.
Yeah, I think there was a guild member in chat. He was saying about how he ran like around 30 to 50 runs and he still didn't get the part that he wanted. So I guess, yeah, like you said, there's certain events that spawn on certain tile sets. And like Izuki said, it's 50% on spawning the tile set, and there's also another 50% on that event actually being where it needs to be. So in that case, it's a bit tricky. I mean, if the devs could like maybe bump up the tile set, then yeah, it will become more easier in that way, more accessible. Like they don't even have to bump up the resource like the drill event, right? All they need to do is just like make sure the tile set is frequent and it should be fine really. Like just other than that.
Just have the mining drill on all the tile sets somewhere.
Oh.
So you're not playing spot the tile set to then spot the drill to then pray that the material that you're searching for you get.
I'm actually going to counter that. I don't like that idea of having it permanently there. I don't think they should have it permanently there, like the tile set permanently there. I do like the RNG feel of the tile sets where they constantly change and it doesn't feel old samey, if that makes sense.
Oh
I
yeah,
yeah.
I feel like there could be better ways about how they do it.
I feel
like a pity system or something, but
I feel like what as you was trying to say is that in every tile set is that obviously there doesn't have to be like a waypoint or be telling you where the drill is, right? So it's going to be a point where you have to explore the whole dungeon in order to find that drill, right? So I feel like that's probably a more better approach if you want that's one option, obviously. And the other option is like you said, like you can just keep on that RNG feel. Like some people like the RNG feel, some people rather not. So I guess it's kind of like 50-50 in that kind of area. But personally, I would go with like the drill on like the tower set, and then you have to fully explore like the dungeon. It gives the player as well to fully explore the dungeon to like get everything it has to offer, and just get fully out of the dungeon once.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of want to open a little debate since you quickly mentioned it, Tom, and it came to my mind. But do you think the game needs some kind of pity system, like a way to maybe buy materials that you've been grinding for a long time with some other resource, or like a way to guarantee a certain tile that you need for a farm, whatever? Do you think it is needed as of now, or
I'd have
No.
to break. I would have to break that down. So I feel like for the beginner game section, yes to the common materials. I feel like for higher up end game and stuff, I feel like a pity system is needed. Not as much though. Like 50 runs, that's nothing compared to other games. But it would be nice, like if they try and define, like maybe if you do up to 100 and you're at least guaranteed that to drop. I feel like that'd be a little more fair because there's always going to be that 0.0001 person, that is going to have to do more than 100 runs plus to even get that to drop. And it's kind of it kind of stops that negative experience and the burnout of it. I feel like there needs to be something there, but I feel like a high amount of runs still should be required before that kicks in the end game.
Yeah, but when you're looking for when you're saying you're doing 100 runs, right? So you're doing 100 runs for one bit of material to drop. Say you need 50 of that material. You can only get it through that one event on that certain tile map.
How much of the materials dropping in that context?
One.
Just one.
Yeah, you have a 50% chance of getting one.
Then instead of a pity system, I'd look at them up in the drop rate on that, like in terms of the amount you get, because one might be a little too low for that. If you're expecting people to do that 50 to 100 times, then they would have to up the drop rate. I don't think a pity system is going to solve that, even if they up the drop rate though. Like let's say it drops 10 now. They've upped it, by 10 times. Worst case scenario, you're doing 500 runs before the pity kicks in. And chances are, within 500 runs, you're going to get 50. Like, that's very high odds.
Yeah.
In that time, you're going to get it. Like, and the pity's there purely just to stop the unlucky runs. But I feel like 500, I'd confidently say, like, most people will get 50. But it really depends. Like, it's hard because I'm not actually even playing that point of the game,
Yeah.
And my experience is purely off RNG of other games similar to this. But I would do up to 100 runs for, like, a Warframe part. I would, maybe not one material, or a weapon part. I would, again, not one material.
Yeah, all it's dropping at minute is one of the item.
I feel, yeah, if that's the case, maybe up the material items. But for parts and stuff, I get the parts and stuff. Even the skins and pets and anything else.
If it's a full part that's there ready to go once you've got it, then I don't see the issue in grinding it out. Keep going until you get it.
What do you mean by full, like, ready to go?
So
can you clarify that? Because, like, there's going to be people probably thinking that as they hear that.
So is it a blueprint that you get in that you then have to add more materials to craft?
Yeah,
or is
it'd be a blueprint like Warframe where you then have to go to the foundry and craft it.
Or is it like a full a full item that you can just equip.
No.
So you're on about the farming for the blueprint to then get the mats to then craft like in Warframe.
Yeah. Because I feel that system works really well.
It does work really well.
I feel like Warframe does have slightly less punishing RNG in some aspects from what I heard of some of the character farms, at least. Maybe they could do it with scaling difficulty, because we don't actually know, but just in case it isn't already, if it is, like, I apologize for this comment, but scale it with difficulty if it's not already. Like, increase that. It doesn't have to be by much, but there should be a noticeable difference from like the tier 1 of that and tier 4, and hopefully tier 5 if they expand, but I also feel like it is
increase the drop chance then per higher tier you go.
Yeah.
So if you're doing the easy tier, you've got a 1 in, I don't know, say 1 in 25.
Yeah, because I feel like those rare materials, right? They are locked off like that for a reason.
Yeah, because it's the way that you need to access the next, a new weapon.
Yeah, but it also stops the lobby players, like, like how in like MMOs, right? A level 1 isn't getting a glob of ectoplasm, for example, to go ecto gambling, like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like there are some materials that will be locked off and should be locked off and harder to get at lower tiers, and there should be more rewarded in higher tiers. So like you're pushing that higher end of the game of the content. And maybe that's where they're going. Maybe why it's only given 1 is because they plan to expand on that in the new upcoming areas.
But then are you pushing the casual players out? Because the casual player tends to not have 4 or 5 hours a night, 6 hours a night to sit and do the same thing over and over again.
I mean, yes and no. Like this is the type of game it is, right? And you can always bypass the characters and weapons, and it sucks. But buy the store if you are really that bothered by it.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Games like Wayfinder and all of that, they are called a looter shooter for a reason, right? It's like it's not meant for, even though yes, casuals can play it. It's not meant for your typical casual player. It's not meant for that, like you said, it's not that type of game.
No. I'd say they could play it, but I feel like they are gonna have to plan carefully about how they go, where the person with no life, like us, will happily sit there and grind it 10 hours, where they can't control RNG, but they can control, like, the priority of their farming and that, and try and be as efficient as possible. I feel like that might... I don't know. To say it's not for them feels wrong. I do get what you meant by that, though. It's really it's a weird debate, because they could be like there are going to be people that look at this and get put off, but I mean they look at Warframe and get put off, and yet Warframe is still super popular.
Yeah. Of course,
so it's like maybe you're like if you like the genre.
I feel like the best way probably to do it would maybe like everything that's core to the gameplay. So, wayfinders, weapons, echoes, stuff like that, as like a limited grind, like in the sense that you're guaranteed to get it at some point instead of always relying on luck. But for everything else, that's like more optional. Just I think put it all on luck, like customization stuff, rousing stuff, whatever. Just if it's all on luck, then it's like there's more like prestige to it, especially if it's super rare. But I don't think like RNG should hinder your ability to progress the game. If you get what I mean.
But by progress the game, just to clarify as well, do you mean like getting new wayfinders and weapons with those materials?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, stuff that's really core to the game. So, like I mentioned, wayfinders, weapons, echoes, trinkets, we still don't really know. But yeah, I think those, like, you should have a way to guarantee them at some point. Because let's say you're like super unlucky and you just don't drop the stuff you need, and you can't like you can't progress. You can't like move, let's say, your archetype system because you can have your Wayfinder. Or if you need a specific Wayfinder for a raid but you don't have him, then you kind of just stuck until you actually get the luck to drop it, which may suck a bit.
I mean, the other thing I actually want to bring up on this, thinking about what you said there, was time invested as well. Because let's say Xuki's farming thing, just for instance, play along. It's 3 minutes to farm the instance. Right? Just pretend it is.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to be 20 runs per an hour. And let's say we need to get you up to 100 to guarantee that. 5 hours. And then, like, do you honestly think, in fact, like, in all those runs that you don't, you still get one, though? Like, per 3 minutes encounter, like, keeping in mind they're quick encounters, there's 5 hours, 100 runs. I think a casual player might be able to do that. Maybe not all at once, though. But, like, if they had the pity in there at 100, I mean, it's 5 hours. It's like 2 game sessions if you really wanted the stuff. Obviously, I do agree with Bing. It shouldn't stop you progressing, though. But I do think for more the gear, the higher tier gears and stuff, maybe they should. You know, like the best in slot stuff. I feel like that should be a grind. Should be earned.
Yeah, you should have to earn it.
Yeah, that I feel like for that stuff, that's why I could maybe say, yeah, you're definitely grinding that. I feel like maybe for the weapons and Wayfinders, though, thinking on what Bing said as well, yeah, they probably could be made a little easier to access. Maybe the pity system for those specific parts could be brought down instead of 100, make it 50 or something. I mean,
it could work, and I think like you mentioned, best in slot stuff. I think that for what we know right now, that will probably be echoes and trinkets. So these, yeah, maybe they could be just purely RNG grind, but I think that at least the weapons and Wayfinder should have a way to guarantee it.
Yeah, because I feel like the end game stuff will give people something to chase, keep playing. I mean, it's kind of like I know it's not super popular in Warframe, but Rivens are, you know, what people live to roll for, right, in that game. If you're into the Riven, I know a lot of people aren't into the Riven system, but that's a whole different can of worms into that.
That's
But
a whole different grind.
Yeah, but like you're in that game, people who are spending countless hours grinding Kuva to then roll like this mod to get better stats, or the stats that they desire. And I feel like that should be somewhat like in this game for endgame on the best stuff. Like, not as RNG, of course, as Rivens or anything, but there should be a lot of time invested into it.
Like, well, the thing is, Rivens aren't like actual endgame stuff in Warframe, I would say. They can be if you roll a really good one, but they're not like a necessity. Like, you don't have to roll Riven and pray to God you get like a massive roll. So that's more like a side thing if you want to do. So that's why I think it butters people less, because like if you just don't want to farm Riven, then you just don't, then that's it.
Would you say at endgame there would be the tier below exotic? Do you think there would be that big of a power gap that you'd really crave the exotic?
Depends if you're going to min-max. It depends if you want to min-max and have all the correct stats and be the best you can be, or if you're just happy with the basic stats. Depends on your gameplay and what you're wanting to do, I guess.
Yeah, the thing too, let's say we still compare it to Warframe. Like Warframe, the end game is pretty much of a meme at this point. Like there's not really any end game because the game is just like, not hard. So you don't really have to min max in Warframe, but we still don't know if we will have to like have perfect stats and perfect trinkets and whatnot in Wayfinder or not. The way they've been talking about stuff and raids, I think we may have to. So
I feel like just for the heroics, what they put in they're meant to be the hardest content in game. So I'm expecting them to actually bash on even the top gear. So they were fully kitted out in the best in slot. I'm expecting them to really kind of wreck us still, if we're not careful. That's why I think that it might go with that. But then again, will they add even new gear? As they expand that stuff, that's always interesting. Or will they bring in other systems to sort of go alongside it?
Thing is that too, like right now, gear is pretty limited. Like other than your Wayfinder and your weapon, you only have trinkets and echoes, and that's it. So there's not much like variety and way to really shape your build other than those. So maybe they will add more stuff as time goes on. But for now, we pretty much have only these two systems to go along with.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's get on to our final topic because we are coming up to quite a bit of time again for this part 2. So let's try and get this around the hour mark, give or take. Let's get open world design discussion quick going, and let's give this one a rating out of 10 as well. So I want you to pretend it's day 1, there's no server problems, you've gone into the game, you load into Skylight for the first time, and then you go explore in the other areas as well. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's well laid out. It's it's well laid out. My brain is just not fucking working. It's too late.
I'll take you over if you want, or say, or Subby if you want to go.
Yeah, I'll just quickly go for it. Well, for me, if it was day 1 of the game, I feel like Skylight is obviously the main social like hub and all of that stuff. It's like where you go to the dungeons and bosses and stuff like that. The places like the Highlands and the woods. I really like the Highlands. Highlands are really it's really big. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's like mini events that you have to like crack a meteor and a boss spawns after you crack it. It's really cool. One problem I might have with the open worlds is that I wouldn't say end game, but like the latest game, open area is not really. It's not really open area. Like it's more like a dungeon kind of area. Like I don't mind that kind of stuff. It's actually more preferable, but I feel like to other players it'll probably be more problematic because obviously they experience the Highlands. Highlands is quite big, and loads of stuff is going in the Highlands. But with the woods, it's more like enclosed. Like it just feels like a dungeon, and with the design as well. The design does look. It's nice. It's cool design, but it doesn't feel like. Again, it feels like a dungeon that you're basically running. It doesn't feel like an open world. So that's like if that was because my first time going into it, it was like that's my fault. I was like, is this a dungeon? Is this open world? What's going on? So if they could make their open worlds a bit more like the Highlands, maybe expand on the Highlands a bit, that would probably really be awesome because it was Highlands. It's a really fun place to be when you're just grinding for like materials like tier 1 crystals or whatnot. Or if you're just helping out a friend, it's a really cool Highlands. It's a really cool area. So if they could just expand on that or make other open world areas like that, it would be really cool, And mini bosses as well. There, it's really, really well thought. Really challenging as well sometimes. But yeah,
Nice.
I'll take
Bing?
over then, I guess. Yeah. So for me, well, first and foremost, I didn't get access to the second zone yet. I'm still just in the islands, so I'll get with only that in mind. But I think the open world is pretty good, honestly. Like, it's pretty big, lots of stuff to just run around and just discover. There's plenty of like quests to do, mini bosses even here and there. There's events that just pop up if like at random. I feel like pretty much they could just like add daily quests that comes here and there to just ask you to do certain stuff in the open world, and you could like grind that for days on end and never be bored. Really, it's really nice to do. I just wish the quests were a bit more visible, because right now there's like no icons on your map or whatever that tells you there's a quest nearby, so you kind of just need to stumble upon them and hope like you find something. And quest quality itself is a bit hit or miss. I think there's some stuff that's a bit like basic or even often off-putting. I can remember one quest I did where the main quest PNG like I told me to like go talk to some other people in town, and like literally I talked to him. Then I went to another like random PNG, just like a guard laying around. Like it's not even a PNG like from that question. Just you had to talk to any guard, and the guy I spoke to had the exact same appearance as the dude who just gave me the quest, which was a bit off-putting to say the least. But yeah, other than that, I think they've got something pretty solid to work with, and I'm curious to see what they're gonna add up on top of that.
Yeah, I'll go with mine before we go to Xuki. It gives Xuki a little more time, I guess, to have a think. But I guess the best reaction for me was actually on that video where I said I'd focus on story at the beginning of the video, loaded into Skylight, and went around quickly exploring. Because it actually looked pretty nice. Because at the moment, like from my experience, I'd seen pictures, like many of you had, and I wasn't expecting it to look as good as it did in the pictures, like in the artwork, because there's always some differences, but normally between the artwork and how it normally appears in the game. But yeah, I gotta say, Skylight is a good place. The other zone I haven't really gone into much. So I'm not gonna comment on that one because I think it's a little too early for that. But yeah, Skylight is fantastic. I do agree with you on the NPC, like where they then use the same NPC but maybe just with like one piece of different color hair. Something like that. I thought that was a little
Yeah, they're not animated either. Like most of them just don't move. Also, I just realized I said like PNG most of the time. Is that a term in English, or did my French take over me for a sec?
It can mean it in English. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
It's not common, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, when I said PNG, I just meant NPCs. I just mix up my words a bit.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that, and I feel like maybe that's part that they got to finish off or polish up. Maybe that's where before the free to play, they do some touching up there. Trying to think back to that roadmap, but nothing springs to mind. I'll have to look back and see if there's any mention of it in there, because I know there was some sort of couple of overhauls they were looking at doing. I think there was possibly a UI one or something in there. I'm not too sure. But yeah, open world design so far okay. Would have liked a few more mobs, to be fair, or mobs to be traveling around a perimeter area, I guess, is give it a little more life instead of just hanging around waiting for you there. But I feel like they adopted that from MMOs because a lot of MMOs have that anyway. So I can't knock on points for it. It just would have been nice to have that a little better. And I would like some lore on the different types of enemies, like some backstories into. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Like-
think there's a journal of some kind that you can access to your menus, but I didn't check it yet, so I'm not sure if there's actually infos on that you need to get, or if it's like something that they plan to do later. But I know there is a menu for that, I think, so maybe like shuffle through that when you get a minute.
Yeah, I might have to look that up. Would I have that unlocked given my level, or is that something? Because I
have.
know there's a couple of things I've still got to play to actually unlock stuff yet as well.
I would imagine you should have by now. You're like what, level 7, 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you would have by now.
Yeah, I think you do. I know I've like picked up some like data or something for some enemies in dungeons, so I guess it probably goes in there. I just didn't like take a look at it yet, but that would make sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out after this podcast. Xuki, do you wanna go into yours?
So overall, I think it's well laid out. It's really well designed, both Skylight and Highlands. There's plenty of space to expand later on, or for like world bosses. But there's also space for things like themed events, like your major holidays that are coming up, your Christmas, your Halloween, and that type. If they wanted to do theme events, there's spaces out there in the Highlands, etc. that these could be run, whereas there isn't really space for that kind of thing in the major cities.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's got me thinking how they would do holidays and that. Yeah.
Well, that's if they decide to do them. I'm just saying the space there in, like, especially in the Highlands where they could do that.
I don't know. I've got it in my head. I saw it. This is like way before the game launched. This was brought up about seasonal events, like the Halloween, the Christmas. The obvious ones. I don't know why. I got it in my head that someone had said yes to it, or they were looking into it at least.
Yeah, I think they said they want to do it like maybe a bit different than the usual Christmas stuff, like an in-universe Christmas, pretty much. But yeah, I think they are looking into doing that.
Okay, let's wrap this up then. So, open world design, guys. Out of 10, where would you place this? Let's get some scores going.
9.
9, yeah.
For now, I would go with a solid 7. I think like it's not quite up there, but solid basis and can work from that pretty well.
Yeah.
I would give it maybe an 8.3 at most. I mean, like I said, I like the Highlands. Highlands is really nice. But when you come to the second zone, it feels more like a dungeon than open world. So hopefully they can either update that open world, or when they go make new open worlds, they can take in consideration on how the Highlands are designed. But yeah, a solid 8.2. Yeah.
Can I just get like, where'd you get 8.3 from? Like,
What do you mean?
And it's really specific.
where did the 0.3 come from? Like, instead of making it easy on yourself by going, 0.5, you went 0.3, very good. The 1.7 they got to improve on.
No, I mean, I feel like I was gonna say 8.5, but then I was just like, I'm a bit skeptical about these kind of. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a bit, I'm a bit controversial when it comes to
Oh,
when it
good,
comes.
man. I tell you what, I'm gonna do a Subby, but do it correctly. I'm gonna give it an 8. Mainly because I feel like there's some room to expand. I would have liked some more stuff in there though, which is the 2-point knockoff, really. And even then, that's kind of me being a little picky, to a degree, with like how the mobs and that are, and even the NPCs. Like I feel like they do need to change that. I feel like that's a little cheapo, like they cheaped out there. But I mean, hell, just change the clothes and even a bit of the face. You haven't got to do too much there. Yeah, that's why I'm going with a solid 8. I think it'd be good to see what they do with the mount maps and stuff, which are coming later down the line. Does anyone else have anything else to add to that, or do you feel like that's wrapped up?
Yeah, feel like that's alright for now. Yeah.
Okay.
Good to me.
I feel like that's a podcast, guys. That's part 2. So yeah, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Feel free to stay to the end if you want to see one of our new outros, or go right back to the beginning to see the intro. But yeah, any feedback, leave in the comments below. Our Discord's in the below, so you can come and join part of the community. If you want, you can even then apply to join our guild, which are 2 separate things, by the way. Just because you're in our community doesn't mean you're in our guild. So, keep that in mind. When you join Discord, there is a small application form to fill out, and we answer it pretty quick anyway. We're not too picky right now, but we are looking for dedicated players for the community. It can be anyone though. Community, if you're in another guild, if you're a person that doesn't have a lot of time, if you're a fellow content creator and stuff like that, just come and get involved with us. Come and join the Discord. Get stuck in. We got some nice events coming up and stuff. And you never know, you might even find yourself on the podcast one day as well. So with that all said, yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you later.
Bye, everyone.